Chapter 6 Allies and Trouble. Cal's point of view. You know, I like this new look. You look very mature now, Annika begins. Maybe I'll grow a beard, I joke. Well, you're definitely getting lightly scruffy. Just don't grow any more than that. I chuckled lightly and shook my head. I gotta go, but I'll see you soon, okay? See you soon, Scruffy, Annika replies. Once I left the hotel, I made my way to the cantina. Luckily, it didn't take me long to find it. I sat down at a table away from the main bar. I browsed the menu a bit until a waiter placed a drink at my table. I examined the drink and was a bit skeptical due to the presentation. Guess I had no choice at this rate. I picked up the fizzy drink and slowly sipped it. Not bad. Actually, it's pretty good, I replied to BD1. Good. I guessed correctly then, said a voice. I turned my head to see a girl approaching me. She slowly removed her hood, revealing her long, dirty blonde hair and fairly pale skin. She took a seat next to me in the booth. Sorry this is how we had to meet, but it was the only thing I could think of without driving attention to ourselves. What's your name? I replied. Kaya Balvo. Are you the one the Queen told us about? Jedi? Cal Kestis, I replied. Pleasure to meet you, Cal, she responded. So, why did you come all the way out here? I began. It's the one area where the Empire hasn't really taken over quite yet. When that happens, though, we will be scattered once again, Kaya replies. Do you have some information on the Empire that might help us? I replied. It's more of a theory, and I don't know if it'll solve the entire galaxy's problems, but it may help your kind. What do you mean? I reply. Before she could respond, another waiter approached us and served Kaya her drink. Once they walked away, she leaned over and whispered in my ear. Slow down with the questions, okay? People are watching. I moved my eyes up and scanned the bar. I did notice a few faces looking over once in a while at us, but majority were too drunk to even focus. I sighed and took another sip of my drink. My anxiousness was slowly beginning to rise, but I remained calm. So, you were a friend? Of the Queen, I mean, I began. Yes. She actually took me in as well. I was her handmaiden for years, until things got too dictating. The Empire's certainly good at that. What do you think of everything that's going on? I replied. The Empire is certainly out of touch, in terms of living like an average citizen. All they want is power and fear written all across the galaxy. They do their dirty work, we stay hidden in fear, they succeed, and continue to win. So why rebel now? Don't you think we might be up against something a little over our heads? I questioned. Nothing is ever impossible, Cal. You of all people should know that. As long as there is hope, there will be alliances that will rise up. I admire that. You seem afraid, she replied. I can tell something is troubling you. I'm just a bit overwhelmed. However, I'm not afraid. Sometimes I get nervous, but I'm willing to fight for what's right. I'm tired of losing. I want to restore balance and save others from suffering the same fate as we have. That's very noble of you, Cal. So, what's your story? Besides helping the Queen, I replied. I was born in Bespin, but my dad and I left as soon as I was born. He was a senator that had finally transferred to Naboo. However, when he was gone on a business trip, his ship was shot down. I never saw him again. After he died, one of his colleagues took me in and raised me as their own. I almost became a senator myself, until I met the Queen. I saw how different she was, and I decided to work alongside her. Do you mind me asking if you happen to know anything about my kind? I replied. As far as I've heard, they're all but a ghost story. Obviously that's not the case because here you are, but I have heard a rumor that one is alive. Where are they now? I replied. No one knows. He's a literal ghost story if you ask me. Rumors fly around that he's been spotted one end of the galaxy, then the next, gone. That rumor you mentioned earlier, what exactly was it pinpointing to? This Jedi? By him being alive, do you think that might help me? Before she could respond, 2 Rhodians approached us. "May we help you? This spot is taken," Kaya replied. One of the Rhodians responded to her sassy reply, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. After they both exchanged a few arguments, they finally left. "I think we better get going. We're gonna need to get back in touch again, though." "Sure. We'll discuss it out of the cantina, though," she replied. Once we left and walked down the marketplace, I could tell Kaya was losing her balance a bit. I pulled her over to sit down. "Sorry, I just feel a bit tired. Can you guide me back to my base? It's on the outskirts of the forest." I gently helped her up and tried to guide her to the outskirts. As we walked away from the main outpost, I could feel myself getting tired as well, but I kept shaking it off. Kaya suddenly went limp, dragging me down with her. "Feeling sleepy there, pal? Why don't we help you out?" As I looked up, my captor smirked, knowing his plan had worked. It definitely wasn't bounty hunters, but a handful of merchants. "Sweet dreams, pretty boy." That was the last thing I heard until I fully knocked out. Time skip. "Look, we don't want any trouble. Just let us go, and we can all forget this ever happened." "Oh, look at you, hotshot. Think you're in the position to talk about mercy? I think not," the man spat. I rolled my eyes and tried getting out of the binds, but the man kicked me in the stomach again. I sucked in a sharp breath and looked at the man with disgust. I quickly kicked the man down and stood up on my feet. Kaya also fought back, knocking the other merchant out. I heard my attacker yell in pain as an electric charge went off. I smiled once I knew it was BD1. BD1 quickly cut off my binds and flew back up on my shoulder. I went over to Kaya and undid her binds as well. "Does this happen to you often?" Kaya begins. "More or less," I replied. "What was that all about?" "Just a bunch of low-life space scum. We call them outcast thieves. They're starting to scatter a bit more often around the outpost." "Well, lucky for us, they weren't much of a threat. Should I be worried, though, that we were targeted specifically?" "No, they do this quite often. I'm sure they didn't figure out who you were, because it would take a lot more than 2 little thieves to sort you out." "Let's hope that never happens again," I replied. "I better get going. But before I do, I wanted to give you this map. It's a trail to our hideout. Just follow this path here, down the woods, and make a left. Don't enter the caves, whatever you do." "Is there some sort of dangerous creature in them?" I replied. "Let's just say the last time someone went down there, all that was left was a hand." "Okay, noted. Stay clear of the caves." "You know, for a Jedi, you're not half bad. Anyway, I really do need to get going. Keep in touch, Cal." "Thanks, Kaya. You too." Time skip. "Didn't bother to help me back there?" I replied to Obi-Wan as I entered the room. "You seem to do well on your own. After all, I can't always be around to help. Joking aside, I do have some information for you. There's a rumor flying around I picked up from the locals. Some sort of project the Empire is working on, but it's top secret." "What could the Empire possibly be experimenting on? Do you think the Inquisitors are in on it as well?" I replied. "I don't think so. Then again, they might be. All I know is we need to find some alliances fast." "Well, we already have a lead." "We can only hope," Obi-Wan implies. "You don't believe Kaya?" I responded. "Just try to keep in mind that not everyone is on the same page as we are. Sometimes, the ones who do believe in it tend to take advantage of that, to gain something out of it. I'm going in this well aware of that. However, there are those who continue to fight," I reply. "I'm not going to let that intimidate me." Time skip. Annika's point of view. "Cal, remember those lightsaber parts I bought the other day? Maybe I can use it. I think it's time I use the lightsaber properly." "We have one small problem. You need a kyber crystal to activate it," Cal implies. "Maybe there's one in the markets." "Not likely. Majority of those are knockoffs," says Obi-Wan. "I suggest you two train after meeting with Kaya and her other rebel friends," says Marin. I could feel my anticipation building up. I was ready to train to become a Jedi, but I did know there was a lot at stake. Let's just hope tomorrow doesn't lead us into another unexpected trap, especially for Cal. End of Chapter 6.